the impossible detection. The Discovery commander Syleth stood in the central observation chamber of the Vaxori flagship Eternal Vigilance, her crystalline fingers moving gracefully across the holographic interface. The chamber's walls glowed with a soft purple luminescence, casting gentle shadows across her transparent skin. Through her body, one could see the slow pulse of her dual circulatory systems, a trait common to all Vaxori people. She had served the Vaxori Empire for 70 cycles, exploring the vast reaches of space and cataloging new worlds for potential colonization. The Vaxori Empire was ancient and proud, spanning across 200 star systems. Their civilization had achieved faster than light travel 3,000 years ago, and in all that time they had encountered 43 different intelligent species. Some had joined their peaceful confederacy willingly. Others had required persuasion through economic pressure or diplomatic isolation. But never had the Vaxori needed to wage war. Their philosophy was simple. Violence was the refuge of primitive minds. The sensor malfunctioned, Commander Syleth. "We have a situation," announced Science Officer Corvin, his voice carrying a tremor of uncertainty that was unusual for the typically composed researcher. His amber eyes flickered with confusion as he studied the data streaming across his console. Syleth glided across the chamber, her movements fluid and unhurried. The Vaxori did not rush. Rushing implied panic, and panic was beneath them. "What have you discovered, Corvin?" "Our long-range sensors have detected objects at the edge of Sector 974, Corvin explained, pulling up a three-dimensional map that materialized between them. "But the readings are contradictory, impossible, actually." Syleth examined the data with growing interest. 5 distinct objects, each roughly the size of a medium Vaxori transport vessel, hung in the darkness of space approximately 50 million kilometers away. But the sensor readings made no sense whatsoever. "The energy signatures suggest active fusion reactions," Corvin continued, his fingers dancing through the holographic display. "But the radiation output should be instantly fatal to any biological life. The electromagnetic interference patterns indicate massive power fluctuations that should tear any vessel apart. The hull materials appear to shift density impossibly, and the thermal readings—" He paused, shaking his head. "Commander, nothing living could survive inside those vessels." The scientific impossibility Syleth felt her secondary heart accelerate slightly, a physiological response to intellectual curiosity. In 70 cycles of service, she had never encountered sensor readings quite like these. "Run a full diagnostic on all sensor arrays. Perhaps we are experiencing a cascade failure." "Already completed, Commander," replied Navigation Officer Thessia from her station. "All systems are functioning within normal parameters. I have cross-referenced the readings with 3 separate sensor banks. They all confirm the same data." Syleth moved to the main display, studying the mysterious objects with intense focus. "If these are vessels, they are unlike anything in our database. Could they be automated probes? Ancient technology from a dead civilization?" Corvin manipulated the data streams, filtering through different analysis protocols. The objects are emitting low-level communication signals on multiple frequencies. The patterns suggest active transmission between the vessels, not the random echoes of dead technology. "Commander, I believe these objects are ships with living crews aboard them." "That is impossible," Syleth stated firmly. "No known biological life can withstand radiation levels of 90 millisieverts per hour. These readings indicate levels 3 times higher. The crew would suffer cellular breakdown within days." "The readings do not lie, Commander," Corvin insisted quietly. Syleth made her decision. "Thessia, alter our course. Bring us to within 10 million kilometers of those objects. Maintain standard defensive posture, but do not activate weapons. Corvin, continue deep scans. I want to know everything about those vessels." The approach as the Eternal Vigilance adjusted course, accompanied by her 2 escort ships, the Luminous Dawn and Crystal Serenity. Syleth ordered her crew to begin first contact protocols. If these truly were vessels with living crews, the Vaxori had a duty to make peaceful contact. "Broadcasting greeting message on all standard frequencies," announced Communications Officer Draven, his melodic voice filling the chamber. "Transmitting in 47 known languages and mathematical sequences." Minutes stretched into an hour with no response. The mysterious vessels maintained their position, seemingly unaware or unconcerned with the Vaxori presence. "Commander, I am detecting changes," Corvin announced suddenly. "The objects are moving. All 5 are changing course simultaneously. Syleth watched as the display updated. The unknown vessels had pivoted with startling precision and were now accelerating directly toward the Vaxori fleet. The speed of their approach was concerning, demonstrating propulsion capabilities that exceeded standard Vaxori engines by a significant margin. "How fast are they moving?" Syleth asked, maintaining her calm demeanor despite the growing tension in the chamber. "0.2 light speed and accelerating," Thessia reported, her voice tight. "At this rate, they will reach visual range in 12 minutes. Commander, that acceleration would generate forces that would crush most biological life." Syleth felt both her hearts beating faster now. "Raise shields to full power. Alert the escort vessels to match our defensive posture. But do not charge weapons. We will not be the ones to initiate hostilities." First, visual contact. When the unknown vessels finally came into visual range, the main display zoomed in to provide detailed imagery. What Syleth saw made her breath catch in her throat. The ships were brutal in their efficiency. Where Vaxori vessels were elegant curves and smooth surfaces designed to minimize drag, even in the vacuum of space, these ships were all sharp angles and aggressive lines. The largest vessel, clearly the command ship, bristled with protrusions that could only be weapons emplacements. Armor plating covered every surface, scarred and scorched in places that suggested previous combat. The hull was painted in shades of gray and black with white markings that included symbols and numbering. "Those are warships," Security Chief Valen stated from his station, his voice carrying a note of disbelief. "Commander, those vessels are designed specifically for combat. Look at the weapon placements, the armor configuration, the aggressive stance. Whoever built these ships expects to fight." Syleth studied the vessels carefully. The design philosophy was completely alien to Vaxori thinking. These were not exploration ships that happened to carry defensive weapons. These were weapons platforms that happened to carry crews. "I am detecting active targeting sensors sweeping our vessels," Valen continued. "They are scanning us very thoroughly. Their sensor technology is quite advanced, perhaps equal to our own." "Commander, we are receiving a transmission," Draven announced. "Audio and visual. The translation matrix is working on the language." "Put it through," Syleth ordered. The warning. The main display changed to show the interior of the unknown vessel's command center. And there, standing in the center of the image, was a being unlike any Syleth had ever encountered. The creature stood upright on two legs, with two arms extending from its torso. Its body was covered in a dark blue uniform that appeared to be made of synthetic fibers. The head was proportionally small compared to the body, with two eyes positioned close together at the front, suggesting a predatory species that had evolved to hunt. Hair, dark brown in color, covered the top of its head. The skin was a pinkish tan shade, completely opaque unlike Vaxori transparency. But what struck Syleth most was the creature's expression. The face was set in hard lines, the eyes sharp and assessing. This being radiated authority and barely contained aggression. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Michael Torres of the Terran Defense Coalition ship, TDC Relentless," the being spoke, and the translator converted the harsh, clipped sounds into comprehensible language. "You have entered a protected zone around human colonial territories. Identify yourselves immediately and state your intentions. You have 3 minutes to comply." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the Vaxori bridge in stunned silence. "Human colonial territories?" Corvin repeated quietly. "Commander, there is no record of any species called humans in our database. This entire sector was classified as uninhabited." Syleth recovered quickly from her surprise. "Draven, open a channel. Let us hope these humans are more reasonable than their ships would suggest." The exchange. "This is Commander Syleth of the Vaxori Empire flagship Eternal Vigilance," she said clearly, ensuring her translator was functioning properly. "We are peaceful explorers charting unexplored regions of space. We were unaware this sector was inhabited. We mean you no harm and request peaceful dialogue." The response came within seconds, suggesting the humans had powerful communication systems or were simply very efficient. Captain Torres reappeared on the screen, though his expression had not softened. "Vaxori Empire, we have no record of your species or civilization. How did you come to be in this region?" "Our people have been traveling through space for 3,000 years, Syleth explained. "This sector appeared uninhabited on our charts. We have encountered 43 different intelligent species in our explorations, but never humans. Your civilization is unknown to us." Something flickered across the human's face, an expression the translator identified as surprise mixed with suspicion. You claim to have been exploring for 3,000 years, but you have never heard of humanity. That is correct. We would very much like to learn about your people and establish diplomatic relations. The Vaxori Empire welcomes all peaceful civilizations into our confederacy. Captain Torres exchanged glances with other humans visible in the background. There was a brief consultation that Silith could not hear. Then the captain turned back to face the screen. Commander Silith, humanity has been in space for 170 years. We have colonies in 6 star systems in this region. This is our territory, claimed and defended by the Terran Defense Coalition. We have not encountered any other intelligent species until now. Silith felt a wave of confusion. How could they have missed an entire spacefaring civilization? The Vaxori survey networks were extensive and thorough. Captain Torres, perhaps we can meet face to face to discuss this situation. We would welcome human representatives aboard our vessel, or we can send a delegation to yours. The human captain considered this for a long moment. Agreed, Commander, but understand that my fleet will remain on high alert. Any aggressive action will be met with immediate response. We will transmit docking coordinates. The revelation as the communication ended, Silith turned to her science officer. Corvin, I need detailed analysis of those ships. Focus on environmental conditions, life support systems, and crew biology. I want to know what we are dealing with. Corvin worked silently for several minutes, his fingers flying across the holographic controls as he refined the sensor scans. When he finally looked up, his amber eyes were wide with shock. Commander, the scans confirm biological life aboard all 5 vessels, multiple individuals on each ship. But the environmental conditions... He paused as if struggling to believe his own data. The radiation levels are fatal. The atmospheric composition would cause rapid cell degradation in Vaxori physiology. The temperature variations would induce thermal shock. The gravitational force is 40% higher than Vaxori standard. Commander, these humans are living and working in conditions that should kill them. Silith stared at the data streams flowing across her display. Are you certain these readings are accurate? I have verified them 7 times using 3 different sensor arrays, Corvin confirmed. Commander, these humans are not just surviving in harsh conditions. The biological scans suggest they are thriving. Their metabolic rates are high. Their cellular activity is robust. It is as if they were specifically designed to live in environments that would be toxic to most species we know. Silith looked at the image of the human warships on her display, their scarred hulls and bristling weapons suddenly taking on new meaning. These were not beings who had conquered a gentle paradise world and then ventured into space. These were survivors, creatures who had evolved in harsh conditions and built their civilization through sheer resilience. Prepare the delegation, Silith ordered quietly. And Corvin, prepare detailed medical scanners. I have a feeling we are about to learn something extraordinary about the diversity of life in this universe. As the Vaxori prepared for first contact, Silith could not shake a growing sense of unease. The humans had been in space for less than 200 years, yet they fielded warships that rivaled Vaxori technology. They survived in conditions that should be impossible. They defended their territory with clear readiness for violence. What kind of world had created such beings? And perhaps more importantly, what would it mean for the Vaxori Empire to have such neighbors? The answers Silith suspected would change everything the Vaxori thought they knew about life in the universe. The test of fire, the delegation commander. Silith led her delegation of 4 through the docking tube that connected the Eternal Vigilance to the human vessel. TDC Relentless. Each member of her team wore specialized environmental suits, their transparent surfaces allowing visibility, while providing protection against the hostile conditions aboard the human ship. Medical Officer Praxis carried portable scanners. Science Officer Corvin held a data tablet containing all relevant information about the Vaxori Empire. Cultural Specialist Mirren would observe and document every detail of human behavior. Security Observer Valen walked slightly behind, his role primarily ceremonial, since the Vaxori carried no weapons. The moment they crossed the threshold into the human ship, every alarm on Silith's suit activated simultaneously. Radiation warnings flashed red across her helmet display. Temperature alerts indicated conditions 15 degrees above Vaxori comfort levels. Atmospheric analysis showed oxygen content 23% higher than safe parameters. Gravity sensors confirmed the crushing 40% increase in force that made each step require concentrated effort. Extraordinary, Praxis muttered. His voice transmitted through their suit communication system. We are standing in what amounts to a toxic environment, yet the humans require no protective equipment whatsoever. Indeed, as they emerged into the main corridor of the Relentless, they saw human crew members moving about their duties wearing nothing but standard uniforms. These beings breathed the poisoned air naturally, walked through the heavy gravity without strain, and seemed completely unbothered by radiation that would hospitalize a Vaxori within hours. Captain Torres stood waiting for them, flanked by 3 other humans in different colored uniforms. The captain extended his hand in what the Vaxori database identified as a human greeting gesture, called a handshake. Syleth reached out with her crystalline fingers and grasped the human's hand carefully. The contact sent a shock through her system. The human's skin was warm, almost hot to the touch. The grip was firm, demonstrating significant physical strength even though Torres appeared to be exerting minimal effort. Welcome aboard the Relentless. Commander Syleth, Torres said, his voice carrying easily through the corridor. I apologize for the environmental conditions. We can adjust the atmosphere in our diplomatic quarters if your suits are insufficient. We are adequately protected, Captain, Syleth replied, though privately she wondered how long their suits could maintain safe conditions. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. May I introduce my delegation? Understanding the humans. The tour of the Relentless was both fascinating and deeply disturbing. The ship was a masterpiece of military engineering, every system designed with redundancy and durability in mind. The corridors were narrow and efficient, lined with exposed conduits and access panels that allowed rapid repairs. The lighting was bright and harsh, optimized for human vision without consideration for aesthetic appeal. This is our main engineering section, explained Chief Engineer Sarah Chen, gesturing to a massive chamber filled with humming machinery. Our primary power comes from a fusion reactor core. We can generate enough energy to power a small city, or charge our weapon systems for extended engagements. Corvin's scanner beeped insistently. Captain Torres, our instruments indicate your reactor is barely shielded. The radiation leakage alone should be catastrophic to biological life. Chen smiled, an expression that showed her teeth in a way the Vaxori found slightly predatory. Our shielding is quite adequate for human needs. We monitor exposure levels carefully and rotate crew assignments to keep everyone within safe parameters. Safe parameters? Praxis interjected, consulting his medical scanner. By our measurements, the radiation exposure in this section would cause cellular breakdown in Vaxori physiology within 3 hours. You consider this safe? For humans, yes, Chen confirmed. Our species has a fairly high tolerance for radiation compared to what we're learning about you. Evolution on Earth exposed us to various forms of radiation for millions of years. Our cells developed robust repair mechanisms. Syleth exchanged glances with her team. The implications were staggering. These humans had evolved not on a gentle world, but on one that had constantly bombarded them with hazards, forcing their biology to adapt or perish. The tour continued to the weapons deck, and here the true nature of humanity's approach to space travel became undeniable. Row upon row of missiles filled automated launch tubes. Electromagnetic railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed lined the ship's flanks. Point defense laser arrays tracked invisible targets with mechanical precision. Energy capacitors hummed with stored power that could be unleashed in devastating bursts. This is more firepower than most Vaxori defensive stations possess, Valen observed quietly. Captain, may I ask why humanity feels such extensive armament is necessary? Captain Torres's expression became serious, almost grim. Because the universe does not care about our wishes for peace, observer. Humanity learned early in our space exploration that we could not rely on the goodwill of others. We hope for the best, but we always prepare for the worst. But you have encountered no other species before us, Syleth pointed out. Against what enemy did you prepare? Against any enemy, Torres replied simply. Against pirates, rogue factions, unknown threats. Space is vast and dangerous. Our colonies are isolated and vulnerable. These ships exist to protect human lives, whatever the cost. The human condition, the delegation was eventually brought to the medical bay, where Chief Medical Officer Dr. James Rodriguez waited with evident curiosity. The bay was filled with sophisticated equipment, much of it dedicated to trauma care rather than preventive medicine. Commander Sileth. Captain Torres mentioned your people might be interested in understanding human biology, Rodriguez said warmly. Would you permit me to conduct some scans? I am equally curious about Vaxori physiology. Praxis stepped forward eagerly. We would be honored, Doctor. The exchange of medical knowledge benefits all species. Rodriguez lay down on a scanning bed, and Praxis activated the Vaxori medical scanner. Holographic displays materialized in the air, showing detailed cross-sections of the human body. And what those scans revealed left the Vaxori delegation speechless. The human cardiovascular system was a powerful pump that moved blood through vessels under significant pressure. The muscular system was dense and efficient, designed for both strength and endurance. The skeletal structure was reinforced with calcium deposits that created bones stronger than most Vaxori building materials. But it was the immune system that truly shocked them. Your body is at war with itself, Praxis said with amazement, studying the holographic displays. Commander, look at this. The human immune system is constantly attacking foreign organisms at the cellular level. White blood cells, antibodies, inflammatory responses, all working in brutal coordination. This level of immune activity would be considered a dangerous autoimmune condition in Vaxori medicine. Rodriguez sat up, looking at the scans with interest. That is normal for humans, Doctor. Earth is a planet teeming with bacteria, viruses, parasites, and countless microorganisms. Humans with weak immune systems simply did not survive to pass on their genes. Evolution made us this way. Your entire biology is designed for survival in hostile conditions, Corvin added, reviewing additional data. Your muscles can operate anaerobically during stress, allowing brief periods of extreme exertion. Your bones can withstand impacts that would shatter Vaxori skeletal structure. Your digestive system can process a wide variety of organic materials, including some that would be toxic to us. You even have backup systems. 2 kidneys when you need only 1, a liver that can regenerate if damaged. Redundancy saves lives, Rodriguez explained. In combat, in accidents, in disease, having backup systems means humans can survive injuries that would kill species with less robust biology. Sileth studied the scans silently, her mind racing with implications. The humans were not simply different from the Vaxori. They were fundamentally built for survival in ways that suggested a brutal evolutionary path. Every system in their bodies reflected adaptation to danger, to scarcity, to constant threat. The call for help, the cultural exchange continued for another hour, with both species sharing information about their histories and civilizations. The Vaxori learned that Earth, the human homeworld, was a planet of extremes. Violent weather patterns, tectonic instability, predatory wildlife, and diseases that could devastate populations. Humans had survived not by avoiding danger but by confronting it, mastering it, and ultimately conquering their world through technology and determination. In return, the humans learned about the Vaxori Empire, its 3,000 years of peaceful exploration, its confederation of 43 species, and its philosophy of diplomatic resolution over military force. Your approach seems wise, Captain Torres commented, but also risky. What happens when you encounter a species that refuses diplomacy? We isolate them economically and diplomatically until they mature beyond their aggressive phase, Sileth explained. Violence is never necessary if one is patient. Torres looked like he wanted to argue the point, but was interrupted by an urgent communication from his bridge officer. Captain, we are receiving a priority distress signal. Multiple sources confirm emergency transmission from Vaxori mining colony, designated Outpost Meridian 7. Sileth felt her hearts contract. Meridian 7 was a small colony with fewer than 2,000 inhabitants, established only 5 years ago to extract rare minerals from a resource-rich asteroid field. Put it through, Torres ordered. The transmission was broken and filled with static, but the core message was clear enough to chill Sileth's blood. Under attack. 3 vessels. Carthon raiders. Shields failing. Casualties mounting. Require immediate assistance. Cannot hold. The transmission dissolved into noise and then silence. Carthon raiders, Phelan said grimly. They are a hostile species that refused Vaxori Confederation. They survive through piracy and raiding, attacking isolated outposts for resources and captives. Commander, the nearest Vaxori defense fleet is 6 days away at maximum speed. Sileth felt a wave of helplessness wash over her. 6 days. The colony would not survive 6 hours against Carthon raiders. The Eternal Vigilance and her escorts were science vessels with minimal defensive capabilities. They could not hope to challenge 3 Carthon warships. How long would it take us to reach the colony? Captain Torres asked his navigation officer through the communication system. At maximum speed, 4 hours and 20 minutes, sir. Torres turned to Silith. Commander, with your permission, the human fleet will respond to this distress call. Silith stared at the human captain in shock. Captain, you have no obligation to help us. We only just met. This is not your fight. The Carthon are dangerous and aggressive. You would be risking your ships and your crew for people you do not even know. Torres's expression hardened into something resembling steel. Commander, innocent people are dying. That makes it everyone's fight. That is what humans do. We help those who cannot help themselves. But the risk, Silith began, is acceptable. Torres interrupted firmly. Now I need tactical information about these Carthon raiders. Ship capabilities, weapon systems, defensive strategies. Everything you can tell me. Preparation for battle. As the Vaxori delegation rushed back to their ship, the human fleet sprang into action with frightening efficiency. Silith watched through visual feeds shared between the vessels as the human crews prepared for combat. On the Relentless, crew members rushed to battle stations with practiced precision. Weapon systems that had been idle during the peaceful exchange now hummed with deadly purpose. Missile tubes loaded automatically. Railgun capacitors charged with crackling energy. Defensive systems activated, creating overlapping fields of protection around the ship. But what disturbed Silith most was the medical preparation. She watched as Dr. Rodriguez and his team transformed the medical bay into a trauma center, setting up additional surgical stations, preparing emergency blood supplies, and organizing equipment for treating severe injuries. They were preparing for their own people to be wounded, to suffer, possibly to die, and they did it with calm professionalism, as if this was simply part of their job. This is madness, Myron whispered, watching the same feeds. They are sailing into battle against an unknown enemy to save strangers. This goes against all rational self-preservation. No, Silith said quietly, understanding finally dawning. This is humanity. They do not calculate odds or weigh cost against benefit. They see people in danger and they act. It is irrational by our standards, but it is also noble. The journey to Meridian 7 took exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. During that time, the human fleet maintained constant communication with the Vaxori vessels. Captain Torres and his tactical team absorbed every piece of information Silith could provide about the Carthon raiders, their ship designs, their weapons preferences, their tactical tendencies. The Carthon favor overwhelming firepower, Silith explained. They typically operate in groups of 3 to 5 vessels, focusing their weapons on a single target until shields collapse, then moving to the next. They are brutal and efficient, but not particularly innovative in their tactics. Understood, Torres replied. What about their defensive capabilities? Moderate energy shields and heavy armor plating. They rely more on offensive power than defensive technology. Their philosophy is to destroy enemies before being destroyed themselves. Torres nodded thoughtfully. Commander Chen, I want a battle plan that exploits their predictability. If they focus fire on single targets, we use that against them. Dispersed formation, rapid maneuvering, concentrated counterfire. We make them chase us while we pick them apart. Silith listened as the human tactical team developed their strategy, impressed by their methodical approach. They ran simulations, tested scenarios, identified potential weaknesses in both their own plan and the enemy's likely tactics. These were not reckless warriors charging into battle. These were professional soldiers who understood war intimately. The Battle of Meridian 7. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Meridian 7 system, sensors immediately sweeping for enemy contacts. They found them quickly. 3 Carthon heavy cruisers in orbit around the mining colony, their weapons pounding the defensive shields mercilessly. Colony shields at 12% and failing, reported the sensor officer. Estimate shield collapse in 11 minutes. All ships, assume attack formation Delta, Torres commanded. Weapons free on my mark. Remember, protect the colony first, destroy the enemy second. The 5 human warships spread into a wide formation, their approach vectors carefully calculated to divide the Carthon attention. The TDC Relentless took point, her more heavily armed profile drawing immediate fire from two of the Carthon vessels. The four escort frigates, TDC Thermopylae, TDC Agincourt, TDC Hastings, and TDC Alamo, swept in from flanking angles, their weapons already tracking targets. Carthon vessels are breaking orbit and moving to engage, the tactical officer announced. They are focusing fire on the Relentless. Exactly as predicted, Torres said calmly. All power to forward shields. Return fire with railguns, target their propulsion systems. Syleth watched from the safety of the Eternal Vigilance, positioned 20,000 kilometers from the battle zone. Her sensors tracked every detail of the engagement. And what she saw was unlike any combat she had witnessed in her 70 cycles of life. The human ships moved with predatory grace, their maneuvering jets firing in complex patterns that sent them weaving through space in unpredictable trajectories. The Carthon plasma weapons, designed to hit slower targets, struggled to track the agile human vessels. Meanwhile, the human railguns fired solid projectiles at tremendous velocities, each shot calculated by advanced targeting computers. The first Carthon cruiser took 3 direct hits to its engine section within the first 2 minutes of engagement. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull as critical systems failed. The ship went dark, tumbling helplessly through space. One down, reported the tactical officer. Second target turning to engage Thermopylae. Thermopylae, evasive pattern gamma, Torres ordered. Agincourt and Hastings, bracket that target and open fire. The battle continued with brutal efficiency. The human ships worked in perfect coordination, communicating constantly, adjusting tactics moment by moment. When the second Carthon cruiser attempted to flee back toward the colony, perhaps thinking to use it as a shield, the TDC Alamo intercepted with a spread of missiles that overwhelmed its point defenses. The cruiser died in a brilliant explosion that lit up the darkness of space. The final Carthon vessel, realizing the battle was lost, attempted to disengage and flee to faster-than-light speed. But the human ships had anticipated this move. The Relentless, positioned perfectly along the escape vector, unleashed a concentrated barrage from all weapons. The Carthon shields collapsed under the assault, and follow-up shots tore through armor plating into critical systems. The raider ship went silent, dead in space. Total engagement time, 14 minutes. Ceasefire, Torres ordered. Damage report. Minor hits to Relentless and Thermopylae, Commander. Shields absorbed most of the impact. No hull breaches, no casualties. All systems operational. Syleth could barely process what she had witnessed. 3 Carthon heavy cruisers, vessels that could have destroyed the Eternal Vigilance within minutes, had been eliminated by the human fleet with almost casual efficiency. And the humans had sustained only minor damage. Meridian 7, this is Captain Torres of the TDC Relentless. The raiders have been neutralized. Your colony is safe. Do you require medical assistance? The response came quickly, filled with gratitude and relief. Captain Torres, this is Colony Administrator Velness. We have casualties and damage, but we will survive thanks to you. The Vaxori Empire is in your debt. Understanding hours later, after the immediate crisis had passed and the human fleet had helped with emergency repairs to the colony, Syleth met with Captain Torres again via video transmission. The human captain looked tired but satisfied. Captain, I must confess that I do not fully understand your people, Syleth said honestly. You risked your lives for strangers without hesitation. You entered battle against an enemy you had never faced before. You fought with a precision and ferocity that suggests extensive combat experience, and yet you speak of hoping for peace. Torres smiled slightly, though his eyes remained serious. Commander, humans have been fighting for our entire existence. We fought nature, we fought disease, we fought each other. War is something we understand intimately, perhaps too well. But understanding war does not mean we love it. We fight because we must, because the alternative is to let innocent people die. We hope for peace because we have seen the cost of war. Your species is extraordinary, Syleth admitted. Dangerous, certainly, but also noble in ways I did not expect. The Vaxori Empire would be honored to establish diplomatic relations with humanity. The feeling is mutual, Commander, Torres replied. I think our two civilizations have much to learn from each other. You can teach us about peaceful cooperation and long-term stability, and perhaps we can teach you that sometimes violence is necessary to protect what matters. Syleth nodded slowly. Her understanding of the universe fundamentally altered. The Vaxori had believed that all advanced species would naturally embrace peace, but humanity proved that belief wrong. Advanced species could be peaceful without being pacifist. could value life while being willing to fight for it, could hope for the best while preparing for the worst. As the human fleet prepared to depart, returning to their patrol routes, Syleth looked at the scarred hull of the Relentless one final time. These humans, with their impossible biology and their warrior spirit, represented something new in the galaxy. They were survivors who had become protectors, fighters who dreamed of peace, dangers who chose to be heroes. And the Vaxori Empire, Syleth realized, was very fortunate to have met them as friends rather than enemies. The universe had just become far more complex, far more dangerous, and somehow far more hopeful than it had been before humanity entered the stage.